Would you like to learn a portfolio setup from a man who turned $1 billion into more than $29 billion in 30 years? This is the David Swensen portfolio, developed by the Chief Investment Officer of Yale University, David Swensen. David Swensen is sometimes called the Warren Buffett of institutional investing. He grew Yale's investment portfolio from $1 billion in 1985 to more than $29 billion in 2019. Since most of us don't have access to the investments he does, he has crafted a simple formula for the average person called the David Swensen portfolio. Now the key question is, how did this portfolio do? From January 2004 to December 2014, the Vanguard 500 index had an annual return of 7.84%, but Swensen's portfolio got 8.46%. During this time, the worst year the index had was a minus 37% drop, but Swensen's portfolio only had a minus 24% drop. During the 2008 financial crisis, from January 2007 to December 2008, the index had an annual return of minus 18.53%, but Swensen's portfolio only dropped about half of that, minus 11.08%. In his book, Unconventional Success, he recommends the following portfolio: 30% domestic equity, 15% foreign developed equity, 5% emerging market equity, 20% real estate, 15% treasury bonds, and 15% treasury inflation protected securities, TIPS. This portfolio is mainly made up of equities/stock. Why is that? According to Swensen, if you're investing for the long term, think 10, 20, 50 years, equities give far better returns than fixed income. Why do you pick these types of equities? For US stock, the US economy is extremely powerful and resilient. No matter how much the politicians try to screw it up, it still stands. And that's something he doesn't want to bet against. For international stock, if business in America is slow, business in Europe or Asia might be good. However, international currencies might not be as stable as the US dollar. If that currency becomes less valuable, your investments might take a hit. For emerging market stocks, these can make a lot, but they're also very risky. And lastly, for real estate investment trusts, REITs, these give you income. Swensen prefers REITs that own big central business district office buildings, big regional malls, and industrial buildings. If you're enjoying this video so far and finding it helpful, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe button for more videos like this. If equities can give such awesome returns, why do we even bother with treasury bonds? In the equity world, risk is guaranteed, but the high returns are not. Just like how your local police force needs to wear those bulky bulletproof vests to protect themselves, you need something to protect your money. Although treasury bonds earn less, they're much safer than equities. When you buy a treasury bond, you're lending your money to the government for a period of time, 1, 5, 10 years, and you will get regular interest payments, 1%, 3%, 5%. In the end, you will get your money back. In his portfolio, Swensen puts 15% in regular treasury bonds and 15% in TIPS. Why? The short answer is treasury bonds are good when deflation is coming and TIPS are good when inflation is coming. Because no one can say with 100% certainty what will happen next, he plans for both situations. If deflation happens, the interest rates will go down, which means newer bonds will pay less. So his older treasury bonds with higher interest rates will be more valuable. For example, if the rates drop to 1%, meaning newer bonds will only pay 1% and he owns an older bond that pays him 3%, his 3% bond is more valuable because it pays more. But what if inflation happens? During inflation, interest rates go up and new bonds will pay you higher interest rates. For example, 5%. If all he has are old treasury bonds that pay 3%, he won't be able to benefit from the higher rates, since the rates of the old treasury bonds don't change. This is why he has TIPS in his setup as well. The value of TIPS will increase with inflation. If he owns $1,000 TIPS and inflation goes up 10%, his TIPS is now worth 1.1K, and he also gets a higher interest payment. By buying these US government bonds, he probably won't lose what he put in. The government is unlikely to go bankrupt. In addition, since he splits his money into the two different types of treasuries, he will make some money regardless of what happens. Inflation or deflation. Win, win. You might be wondering, how come he didn't buy any corporate bonds? Swensen believes that we shouldn't bother with corporate bonds because we can get better return from buying the company's stock. The risk in corporate bonds is not worth the potential reward. If you want to copy Swensen's portfolio, here are some possible funds you can use. Lastly, I must warn you, there is a hidden danger when you're buying funds. If you're not aware of this danger, you could lose hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe even millions. Can you guess what it is? It's the fees that these funds charge. This next video will explain why your fees matter more than your returns, the types of fees, and how you can decrease them.